Is the book over?
No.
It's here.
Okay, I think we're going to try and stay on time here and get started with our second presentation. Hope you got something, refreshment there in the back, some water or something. So our next presentation is a tag team affair with Melissa Smith and Julie Devlin. Melissa is the current director of the Division for Services for Aging and Persons with Disabilities in Delaware here. She has served the state of Delaware in various capacities within DHSS for the past 19 years, including as a planning supervisor, a long-term care planner in this same division, and deputy director and director of planning at the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health, or DSAM. She's earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from U of D and a master's degree in urban affairs and public policy. Melissa is a fervent advocate for person-centered care. We love that, right? And has spent much of her state career working to advance person-centered principles in services provided to Delawareans. Julie is the executive assistant to the director for the past year, and before that was a planner for the same division for about 7 years. She has experience in several other community organizations and programs in Delaware before joining DSAAPD. She has a BA in journalism and political science from Penn State and a JD from Widener. So thank you both for joining us today. Hopefully we're going to hear about maybe the Delaware State Plan for Aging and its connection with our work here in healthcare. Thank you for joining us.
So hi, everyone, and thank you so much for welcoming us here. We're excited to talk to you all as a fairly new group to engage with where we want to head with healthy aging. We'll make sure we tell you a little bit about the tie-in for healthy aging. And I'm really excited to talk about our vision forward as we think the healthcare system is a partner that we.
No, you want to get rid of the list of this out of the way.
Okay. To engage you as partners to look at healthy aging. So I'll go over a brief introduction of our division and the kind of services that we provide. And then I'm going to explore where we want to head and how we think there are some touch points with our healthcare community in getting to our vision of a healthier, older Delaware. So I'm going to try to, okay, perfect. Okay, so our division, the Division of Services for Aging and Adults with Physical Disabilities, is one of 11 divisions in the Department of Health and Social Services, and we're one of the largest. A big part of that is because we also run the only state-run nursing facility, the Delaware Hospital for the Chronically Ill, and the staff there comprise a large amount of our overall FTEs. Our mission is to promote dignity, respect, and inclusion for older adults and people with disabilities. And our current community-based service system serves around 15,000 people with home and community-based services. These include our core services of nutrition, home health, adult day, caregiver supports, and legal assistance. The division provides services and supports including information and assistance to the Aging and Disability Resource Center, case management and options counseling, community nursing, adult protective services, and residential care in our state-run nursing facility, the Delaware Hospital for the Chronically Ill, where our current census is 82 residents. So I'm going to go over our services and programs, but first introduce the nod to the State Plan on Aging. Our enabling language comes from the Older Americans Act, which establishes our division's authority as a state unit on aging and establishes our responsibility to set forth a state plan on aging every 4 years, of which we're about halfway to 3/4 of the way through. I'm establishing benchmarks, performance measures, and goals for the state to achieve healthy community-based options for older Delawareans. Within that enabling language, it prescribes the role and functions of our agency, and our supports are intended to assist older adults with community tenure and aging in place. They're very intentionally geared towards aging in place and community living. Our funds are formula derived, and because of our small size and fairly low census, even though I know to us it's a big deal to cross the 1 million mark. It means that our allocation from the Older Americans Act doesn't grow. So that's a very stable, small pot of money. The rest of our funds is made up through the General Assembly, through general funds that are given to us. And this is important because I'm going to get into how we really need to shift the way we're funding our services for older adults. So naturally speaking, if we're not allocated more money through the state legislature, we stay very flat in terms of overall funding. That's important because these services and programs that you see listed on the screen, most have a wait list because of that limited funding and because so much is tied up in current services for individuals we serve, yet the older population gets larger every year. So the wait list is a concern for our services. We, with over 2,000 people, some of that's duplicated across services, but the total number of people waiting for all of our services is over 2,000 people with close to a year wait time for some really necessary in-home services, including assistance with activities of daily living, the home health service. So that's all important to paint the picture where we want to go and how we need to shift if we're really going to meaningfully address not only the basic needs of our older Delawareans, but better life needs and really start to live up to the spirit of the Older Americans Act and providing meaningful, engaged, healthy lives in the community. So back to the list of services. Not in the box, but in the white that you see here, it shows a large array of a variety of services from our Aging and Disability Resource Center, which really is a options counseling, information referral. It's our first stop. You can call in and they can either direct you to the right place to go with a warm handoff or bring you in and have someone give you a call to further examine what you need and maybe even have someone come to the home if that seems necessary and continue to assess for what services are needed. Other services like caregiver resource centers, we depend on partners around the state to provide access and resources to caregivers, including supports such as respite vouchers, but also support groups. I'm just picking out a few. One of my favorites, and it's an indication of where we want to go, is our endless possibilities in the community and partnership with the YMCA, which couples physical therapy with trained certified personal trainers, and they work towards individuals' goals to increase stability, increase the ability to self-transfer, increase the ability to stand for longer periods of time or at all. And so really working on those functional strengths that will overall keep you in the home and keep life easier. The services in the blue box represent services we provide and Medicaid provides. So they're completely duplicated. There is no difference in the service itself, except for being eligible for Medicaid or not. And one thing we know from the 15,000 people we serve overall in the community is an estimated 35% minimum could be eligible for Medicaid. And so for us, that's very real and very large dollars that we're not accessing to serve more people who don't have access to Medicaid because we don't have we don't have good policy in place to really help people get to Medicaid when they're eligible and really serve as our function, which is a safety net and last resort for individuals that really have no other option to seek services. So our plan to address.
35% of the people that you service for those services do not have that could be Medicaid eligible.
They look very much like, we either know that they
Why
are.
don't they get to Medicaid?
Choice.
Choice.
Yeah. I'll go into it because I think we have a little time.
Yeah.
You know, the Medicaid program is excellent in that it has a very robust array of services. I would suggest those individuals that are receiving the array of services through the Diamond State Health Plan Plus, through a managed care organization, already has access to a robust array of services that we do not offer. So it's already a one-stop with a case manager to manage that. In addition, the important part, and I know I'll repeat it later when I get to it, is the Medicaid program is an entitlement program and it will grow. The feds will continue to support everyone who's eligible. That's not the case for the Older Americans Act and general funds. And so that's why we see the wait list. The choice is driven by the reputation of Medicaid, stigma, really. Somewhat true and somewhat bad information that you'll lose your home, you'll lose your assets, that inheritance won't go to the children, it will go to the state. Sometimes that's true, depending on the situation. A lot of times it's not, and it's really individually based and dependent on a variety of factors.
So there are perceived barriers to getting on Medicaid that your division doesn't have. People can
That's right.
access your.
That's a very important point.
Those barriers.
Yes. Yeah. So the access is a very important point. So while there are Medicaid hurdles, including the application process, eligibility, et cetera. And then, of course, the fear of the real or perceived things that could happen when you're on Medicaid, we don't have those thresholds. And so the unfortunate identity, I think, that we have is that we're the easier option, and we're not really government. It's not really the same kind of thing as Medicaid. It is. It all comes from government funding. It's all limited, and that's really those factors together are what drive that enormous wait list of ours. And what we're putting in place, and I'll get to this with our goal areas, starting with the community operations design, is we're right in the middle of beginning to implement policy and procedure that would decrease the choice to not pursue Medicaid, meaning really enforce that we are safety net and last resort, and that we don't have enough dollars to pay for people who have access to another funding resource, insurance option. So that's going to be tough for people to appreciate, especially those that are on the service. So we'll go slow. It'll be front door at first. New individuals that come to us will have a much better way of explaining this is a much more rich option for you. Plus, it's the only one for you at this point. We can help you get there, both in helping with the Medicaid application and also temporary supports, because we know how important they are in the home. So that's what the community operations redesign in the top left corner of our goal area is really aimed towards, is really discontinuing the process we've been under in about 10 years ago is when all of the Medicaid programming got folded into the Diamond State Health Plan Plus. And so for the last 10 years, we've been growing a wait list. We're looking to undo that through policy and really help individuals understand the hierarchy of access, and then really hopefully open up more options for people who are waiting or haven't even come to our front door yet, because every year we anticipate 2.5 to 2.8% of our population will age into 60 plus. And we're looking to do all of this because we want to support aging in place. We really want to see more individuals staying in their homes or their communities and living situation of their choice with independence, with choice, and with the supports they need. And we believe this is possible through encouraging healthy aging options, planning, and looking ahead. And that's really what I'm going to tie to your interests, I hope, and what we're trying to do and how we can work together to really start to face aging and talk about the tough conversations, but also put in front of people viable, interesting, accessible options so that it's easy to take advantage of a chronic disease management course or a movement course or a social club. More in that to come. I'm going to skip down to the bottom because this really ties together the effort that we're undertaking right now, and that's the efficient and effective programming for older adults and those with physical disabilities. And that really gets to what we've been talking about. We really need to make sure that people are accessing resources from where they can, meaning Medicaid, other insurance options, and really reserving our dollars, our scarce dollars, for those that really have no option. This will take a couple more years and a lot of effort on buy-in, but I think it's the only way we're going to be able to continue to support Delawareans. A 2,000 person wait list isn't supporting Delawareans the way I think we'd all like to see. And then not to leave out our excellent skilled nursing facility, which is a 5-star facility, and we're incredibly proud because if you saw the building at 100 years old, you would wonder how we got there, but it's really the dedication of the people inside of it to the people who live there. Some examples of this excellence in long-term care we continue to pursue are, of course, taking on increased examination of person-centered care and what that means. We went through several years of that at the facility, and the difference is phenomenal, as I'm sure you've seen before and after when you implement person-centeredness in a healthcare setting. We can point to our restorative program that gets people up and walking and physically better than when they arrive, which is always the goal, and discharge is always the goal. We have a neurobehavioral health program that we're really proud of that really examines the interplay of dementia, person-centered care, and behaviors and activities, and how can we get to the person inside and what's going to appeal to them? How can we better understand what they're trying to communicate, and then provide services on their level that's appropriate to them in a very person-centered way? This approach has reduced our need for psychotropic medications by 97%. And we've maintained very low levels of overall psychotropic medications. We went from, and I'm going to speak skilled nursing facility for a second, but we went from flagging, which means we were in the red, hey, you've got a problem here with your medications, to not at all. And so we're looking to continue to look at best practices, to explore ways that we can tap into person-centeredness, to continue to embrace memory care. And the thing that I say a lot, and I think you all would agree, is when a person has dementia, all is not lost. You have to look for it. You have to really be dedicated to the person and to person-centered care, but you'll find them, and they'll open like a flower, and then their life is better, and certainly the people who serve them are. So these are what we're focused on right now. They're all very tied together, and we put the guiding principles on the side because we really think those are the threads that weave through everything we do. I've continued to talk about person-centered approaches, and that everything we need to do comes from that understanding and that approach. Obviously, we need to support our workforce, both within the division and externally, because preaching to the choir, I'm sure the workforce issue is huge and probably our biggest looming disaster that we're facing in serving this population and many others in need. And so looking for ways that we can support our own employees in our division to keep them, retain them. And I unabashedly tell them to tell their friends this is the best place to work for, so that we can retain our own workforce, but then partner with other agencies that are looking at the bigger picture of the declining workforce and the problems that continues to create for our institutions. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and inform all initiatives with DEI lens. I'll definitely dive into this in a couple of more slides, where we appreciate that both our diverse staff and the diverse Delawareans aren't seeing themselves a lot in the way we provide our services. And so our goal is to really have programming and outreach and services that are interesting and available to all Delawareans and all communities. And so what that means is we really need to better understand how to engage and reach into those communities. And then a self-correcting agency, I think it's our responsibility, but it's important to us to constantly be looking and grading ourselves against our goals, looking at how we're doing, using data, self-correcting before we're called on it, and certainly make sure that we're staying the course on where we want to go. Thank you for guiding those questions. I didn't even have to use my script. Okay. So this is largely our theoretical framework that we're moving into. So it's an opportunity to test our vision on you all and look to engage and see if there are threads here that are interesting to the healthcare community and ways to partner. So we're focused on these components of healthy aging right now to focus on healthy, productive, rewarding lives in the community. So starting on the left, promoting health, preventing injury, and managing chronic conditions. Some ways we're doing this already are partnering. Am I moving? Okay. Partnering with our public health agency, Milford Wellness Village, and many community partners in implementing and expanding access to chronic disease management programming and training. And we would gladly partner with all of you as our partners in the medical care center settings to make sure that people are aware of the programming. And especially at the onset of disease, I think that's the earliest and the most opportune time to begin to talk to people about managing this chronic disease that will be with them for the rest of their lives, but there are better ways to manage and to prolong healthy living. And then those who have been living with it and struggling with it and maybe are able to get under control. And so we're looking to expand that kind of programming and want to make others aware that this is a place to refer people to help feel ownership and take control of the trajectory of their health. We also recognize that optimizing cognitive, physical, and mental health are paramount in healthy aging. And we're looking to partner with a variety of settings to provide healthy opportunities through movement, exercise, conditioning, and balance. And we've begun discussions on how to provide opportunities for cognitive screening and using partners in doing so and encouraging early screening, because increasingly we see that research proves early detection completely changes the course of memory decline. And so we're looking to increase public awareness about the benefits of early detection and partner with a variety of settings so that they're hearing it everywhere they go. You really need to get screened. Don't be scared of the result. Be scared of what will happen if you don't find out.
So who in the healthcare system are you partnering with again?
We are
These things?
a variety, and I'll look to you. Swank has always been a partner for referral. And we're also talking to the University of Delaware Speech Language Hearing Clinic, who's also interested in the screening and study of cognition and memory loss. And so this is a good opportunity to thread in what we're thinking of. We can't be everything for aging. We could try and we would fall short for Delawareans. I'm envisioning a network where we're woven together, that we can say we appreciate and value cognitive screening. That's not our expertise, but we have strong partnerships with a variety of areas we can send you. That's also important for our DEI lens, that UD may not be the place. Some people feel like they find a comfortable place to receive services, but maybe we can connect them with a federally qualified health center where we've embedded some of these resources. So looking to continue to grow those partnerships and those connections. Clearly, mental health is a paramount service need, support need for older adults. And I think we would gladly look to support changing mental health support so that it really reflects the changing needs of older adults, and that like so many things, older adults' mental health needs are going to be different than those of younger adults and kids. And so really looking to make sure we have mental health supports that are really tailored for and targeted for our older adults. Our aging Delawareans are looking for more than bingo in retirement, but I will say bingo's popular for a reason. So it's not going away. But just aside, there just isn't a lot of options that are appealing to a lot of different types of Delawareans. And what's most concerning for us is that without options, people are retiring and sitting at home and becoming sedentary and losing social connection, losing that daily movement and that daily thing to do and that daily schedule. And I think we've all seen it with people that we know and how detrimental it is. And then on the societal level, that's a problem for us in a healthcare way, because we lose an opportunity to catch people who are now freer in their lives and their schedules than they've ever been, and they're finding the most time isolated and without activity. And so we're really looking to find ways to engage our community partners, our senior centers. We have 50 in the state. We have a lot of senior centers, and some are doing amazing, diverse things, and some are very underfunded and very small, but they're in communities we're not in. And so this is another network that we're building right now, is looking to engage with senior centers, or community hubs, not in the research sense, but really, those places where community members go because they feel safe, and leverage what they already know about their communities and look to support them through programming that's going to be appealing. I think what we all intuitively know is if something's not appealing, they're not going to do it. So don't offer a yoga class in a place where no one in that community center is going to be interested, but maybe an art class is. I don't know. And so that's the part that we're invested in finding out, is how can we leverage what they already know about their communities and instead empower them to provide the supports instead of trying to do it ourselves. And all of this, we hope, is beginning to work to leverage and create partnerships around addressing social determinants of health, so we see better trajectories in the long run of our older adults. So a couple of statistics to just frame out the issue at hand, I guess, is obviously Americans are living longer than ever. And in that, we see we're in the middle of the doubling of older Americans. And as baby boomers move through the older years, we're only 10 years away from seeing older adults outnumber children for the first time in the US. And for me, I think that's an incredibly powerful thing to think about. And I want to put it in the context of childcare. We have a robust childcare system in the United States. Some would argue it's not enough, and I would agree. However, compared to the system we have for older adults and their caregivers, it's robust. And so what that means is it takes into account that women and caregivers and men caregivers need to go to work. And so we need to find a meaningful place for individuals to be when their caregivers at work. And I don't mean adult daycare. I mean a meaningful place to be. And that
Daycare is not a meaningful place.
it is. It's not the only one. To increase programming so that individuals have alternatives to go during the day if they rely on their caregiver to support them. Beyond caregiver issues, just look at the robust array of opportunities that are given to children to explore, to learn, to move, to socialize. We don't have any of that for older Delawareans. And so that's really the gist. If you can kind of imagine what's available for children in Delaware and translate it to what could be available for older adults, that's really where we're trying to head, is create that network through partnerships and through leveraging maybe small programs that are there and helping them grow so they can serve more people. Let's see here. We're also seeing a growing number of individuals with disabilities growing older. And while this isn't a new phenomenon, as healthcare progresses, we're seeing more and more. And they're going to present just a different need. And so we want to be inclusive of considering those older adults with disabilities, physical, developmental, across the board, and make sure that there are opportunities that are more appropriate and more available to individuals that are older with disabilities. And older adults, as we know, aren't just to be cared for. They're huge contributors to our economy. And so this slide, I hope, we'll talk through it a bit, will establish that keeping adults healthy and active in communities is an economic benefit to wherever they are. Let's see here. So older adults that are working are more likely to have insurance and able access to medical care. And so while we know that working into older age is probably not the perfect answer for everybody, it still creates more access to medical care for those who choose and want to work and find it meaningful and rewarding. AARP did a study in 2019 that concluded Americans age 50 and up contribute so much to the US economy that they constitute the world's third largest economy if they were counted as their own country. Now, a lot of that study focused on unpaid labor that those who are aging provide. I think the two best examples you could think of are volunteerism and caregiving. Caregiving alone represents a huge unpaid economic underpinning of our healthcare system and for older adults. Healthier adults are better able to work, volunteer, and participate in their communities, maybe even take care of those kids. I didn't find one of those robust options. And in a 2021 study by Nature Aging, researchers found that a slowdown in aging that increases life expectancy by 1 year is worth $38 trillion across the United States. And by 10 years, $367 trillion. So ultimately, the more progress that is made in improving how we age, the greater the value of further improvements. So if for the benefit of aging healthy, nothing else, our economy could practically dig itself out of its deficit if we just enabled individuals to age healthier longer. But we know there's challenges in doing so and providing healthy aging. We're seeing the aging of multiple generations overlapping right now, with our oldest Americans representing Depression era generations and our baby boomers that have moved into retirement and continue to move further into older years. And we've learned that generational differences in these two groups will necessitate a different approach. So we're already seeing a difference between a cohort of older adults that would rather not, they don't want to bother, they don't want to ask for too much, compared to our younger, older adults who are demanding more and expect better, as they should. And so we're looking to continue to appreciate that and those things that are going to be appealing to them and support them in their aging. Due to the disability-based needs that we see on the slide, we know that 80% of older adults age 60 and older have at least one chronic condition, which is why we feel it's so important to put education in front of people as quickly as possible for self-management. And have at least 1 in 3 have ADL limitations, which they're going to either need assistance or will need assistance soon. And so because of the disability needs, we rely on caregivers to assist our older adults, and unpaid caregivers, as I said, are really the backbone and the foundation of our service structure for this population, and they're frankly at the breaking point. We need to identify better ways to support their needs, and that's a huge initiative that we're taking on this year and going forward, is really understanding what caregivers need that they don't have access to, and trying to put in place those programming, policy, and funding sources to really support them. I'll go back to my analogy of a mom who has a caregiver, who has a childcare option so she can go to work, but if she's taking care of her mom, she's still at home. And so again, another economic argument for supporting caregivers, but also helping people be healthier as long as possible. So what can we do to promote healthy aging in our communities? The thing I keep saying, we need to facilitate cross-sector collaboration and create incentives. And by incentives, not only for collaboration of the partners, but incentives for older adults to come to the table and give us ideas about what would be appealing to them. We're looking to reach into underserved communities where we do not have a notable presence, and develop sustained engagement with these communities to identify and address inequities and service gaps. And I'll, in the next slide, go into a little more detail about our targeted engagement efforts we're undertaking now to really meaningfully engage with communities. We'll look for ways to reduce barriers to access services and look to provide supports that combat the many forms of social isolation. We learned in early COVID that it's a great idea to provide bingo or Zumba by Zoom, not the right population to do this. So finding ways that really that being person-centered, meeting the people where they are, finding ways that they're truly going to engage. And we want to identify and address the social determinants of aging well, figure out what those are, figure out how we can tap into the interests and the interests of individuals, and really look to support those at a population level, so that if you live in Seaford or you live in Newark or you live in Milford, you have something that's available that's interesting and engaging. So in an effort to kind of summarize this and pull it together, we see the work of providing services, partnerships with communities, and supportive preventative measures as a path we can take our older Delawareans further into healthy aging and prolonged community living. We're working to engage healthcare partners like yourselves to understand health disparities among our older Delawareans, and to partner with those groups that have already taken important charge to this action. We're looking to engage with communities to understand their unmet needs, and looking to have more diverse voices communicating with us through formal and informal channels. And I'm going to tie it back to your original introduction of the State Plan on Aging. This is a strategic plan for Delaware on how we want to support our older Delawareans. And in this development, we do a series of public forum, public comments. This next round will be very different. I find us in different locations, in different rooms, in different spaces, asking the questions of how can we support you? What's missing that would help you age better, that would better support you? And so we're hoping that's another place that we can gather information about how to serve all Delawareans, not just the ones who know about us or are inclined for one reason or another to ask us for help. And we look to you all to tell us what's missing. You're talking to individuals and seeing perhaps a result of a lack of services or a lack of early planning and preventative supports. And so what do you wish was in their life 20 years prior that we could put in place to help them age in a different way? And knowing them as individuals and patients help us address the barriers to accessing those services. You know, everything from the stigma of going to a senior center because I'm not a senior, to providing programming in a way that they're going to accept and digest the information. One thing I'll suggest, and I think you know it way better than I do, is facing aging means facing the end, and people are very reluctant to do so. And so we're looking for ways to open up that conversation and continue to create opportunities to talk about it in a positive way where you still have control, you still have choices to make, and to put those options in front of people sooner so that aging is not a bad word anymore. So a couple of examples. We've talked a lot about a theoretical network, these programs that we want to develop, but I wanted to give tangible examples of where we've already started, and we have so much more to go. But Healthy Homes is an example of where we'd like to see more expansion. If we want to see people aging in place, the structure they live in needs to be able to hold them there. It needs to be maintained. And we know that as individuals age, that becomes harder on them. They also have different needs from their own living structure. So Healthy Homes is a home repair modification program in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. And they really focus on health aspects of the home, meaning air filtration systems, air filters, dirty carpet. But they also do some of the basics of helping with egress and entry, and so that people have clear and safe paths to come in and out of their homes. Any other examples that are salient?
Energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency. So not only to help them save some dollars, but make sure that all of their heat, air conditioning, et cetera, are working. And so we piloted this in Wilmington, and we're excited to say we're expanding in Wilmington this fiscal year, may be able to get started in Kent County around the Dover area this fiscal year, and then are really looking to continue to expand statewide with our partners, Habitat for Humanity, so that more Delawareans are able to access that service. Another example is our active living to promote healthy lifestyles and wellness activities. I gave the example of the EPIC program in the YMCA. Like to see more of that, more opportunities for individuals to get into normal settings, not a physical therapy setting, but go to their local Y, but have programming that's really tailored to their needs. And they define those, meaning I want to be able to walk around the block. They'll help you with that. I want to be able to get up out of my wheelchair and transfer on my own. They'll help with that. And Christiana Care has been a partner in that too. So I should mention that. And community integration. So social integration is, we think we put it on our pillar as one of the most important facets of healthy aging. And we know that certainly COVID helped solidify this research, that social isolation and loneliness are in and of itself a health condition that is detrimental to individuals. And so, I shared almost in jest, we figured out that Zoom virtual programming isn't exactly the way to go. It'll work for some, but continuing to find ways to get people into communities and create those social connections. One example that I want to point out is we're putting out a request for information, meaning anybody can chime in and tell us their ideas, their thoughts, suggest this, don't do this, for a program that we would fund for community integration to pick people up and take them out into the community. Everything from shopping to going to play bridge with their friends or any other activity that they just need help getting out and doing. We want to support that, acknowledging that that's such an important aspect of overall health. And I get to summarize and go to my friend Julie here. So this wheel is just another depiction of how we see the multifaceted approach, the multidisciplinary approach to aging well. It's certainly not just your state unit on aging and your basic home delivered meal, but it's engaging healthcare settings, partnerships and housing, which I didn't even get into, but it's another, shortages of housing are obviously a significant issue, transportation and access to transportation, civic participation, et cetera. So we're going to continue the conversation about planning ahead, but we're going to get a little more finite, I think, on some takeaways, which might be a breath of fresh air from this philosophical conversation so far. So Julie Devlin is our legal services developer, among many other things and titles, and she's going to walk through some really targeted ways that we can help our older Delawareans plan for their future. So Julie, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Okay. Do a little switcheroo. Yeah. And I'm short, so there we go. Okay. So it's not going to be as fun. Might be fun for me because I'm an attorney, but it's never easy to have the conversation about planning ahead. As Melissa mentioned, nobody wants to think about their own mortality, right? But it's really important that we, in a multidisciplinary approach, all help people to plan ahead. It's really going to make it a lot easier as they age and they do maybe, get to the point where they need enhanced services, that they have things in place that help in the decision making. It eases the burden for them, but it also eases the burden for their families. I know that you all probably have dealt with some of these legal options that people have had, but we are going and asking people, especially medical professionals, to help us to have the conversation with people before they get to the point where they don't have capacity anymore and can't make can't make decisions. So you might have seen this list before, but these are our decision-making options in Delaware. And I'm not going to run through all of them, but there's a couple that are really important, especially in the healthcare setting. Most important is an advanced healthcare directive. That is something that people can put into place ahead of time. And when they no longer have capacity, is going to help in that decision making. But we have a lot of other things like supportive decision making. In fact, one of our sister agencies has partnered with the Delaware Developmental Disabilities Council to put on a workshop for supportive decision-making and really ensuring that people understand what it is and that it's a great option before we go through some of the other legal options. And on May 9th, from 12 to 1, they have one that's specifically around the healthcare setting. And so if people are interested in that, you can reach out to us and I'd be happy to provide you more information on that, because they're having someone from the national level talk about the importance of supportive decision-making. So on this screen, there are other things besides healthcare decision tools like durable power of attorney, which is like the financial side of things. Guardianship, which could be over finance or person. You might see it over person. If person lacks capacity and really doesn't have anything in place before that. We never want to see guardianship. We want to ensure that people have something in place beforehand, because guardianship is a last resort. You're basically taking away all rights of that individual and someone is making total decisions for them. We don't want that. So we always advocate against guardianship. Okay, so advanced healthcare directive. Any adult with capacity, with or without medical or legal consultation, can do an advanced healthcare directive. And in the legal sense, capacity means that I would talk to an individual and they can repeat back to me what I said and understand what it means. And so that's all that we're looking for that would stand up in the court. So it's going to basically tell them what the preferences are to guide future healthcare treatment if they ever lose capacity. Again, it's really helpful for families to have this in place already. And so they're not asking, well, what would mom want? Right? And so there's already a document that mom already told them what they want, and they can pull it out and share it with medical professionals. It eases mind, and that's what's important. So this is what Melissa was talking about, some tangible things. So this is what we're asking healthcare professionals and other people can ask people when they see them, if they have something in place. So these are simple questions that they can ask. Do you currently have a living will, which is the same thing as an advanced healthcare directive, which explains treatments you want or don't want if you are dying or can't speak for yourself? Do you have an advanced healthcare directive, which explains who should make decisions, medical decisions for you if you aren't capable of it? Do you have a power of attorney to document which person you trust to give power to make decisions for you if you're unable to? Do you have long-term care health insurance? And that's going to help in planning the financial side of things. How do you pay for treatment if something happens to you? These are just a few questions to think about, but our state is really looking at medical legal partnerships. And so we've participated at the state level on several task forces thinking of aging in place. And so this is definitely top of mind of a lot of people. How can we support people to live in their homes longer and one of the recommendations was to establish medical legal partnerships. And that's really having a legal representative in a medical home. And so when people are there, they see their doctor or their nurse or whoever, they can also meet with someone who has a legal background to answer these questions and work towards them. And that way they don't have to go somewhere special, right? It's all in one place. They just talk to the doctor about it because the doctor asked them. And then the doctor said, we actually have someone on staff that can help you do that. So it's easy for them. And then when the time comes and they need to put an advanced healthcare directive in place, it's already there. So it's really important. We feel that taking action now and writing down a plan will help in the long run, and that all of you can help remind patients of the importance of laying out decisions before it's too late. We think that will encourage healthy aging. We're all about preventative steps, and legal services is one of those. We also, and I'll just, this is almost the end, I think. I will also say we also have a legal services program, and so we can help individuals 60 and older do those things like advanced care directives. And so on the next slide, we have our ADRC phone number as well as our website, and they can get information on that legal services program or any of our programs through that information. I was a lot quicker.
Wow, it's complicated, isn't it? Thank you very much. Question?
Yes. Yep, we do all. So we do simple wills through that program. If we work with Community Legal Aid Society, Inc. of Delaware, and if they can't do it based on our contract, they will refer to another attorney who can do it. So, and it's not income dependent either. No.
Other questions? Anything, Keegan, online? So, Melissa, you mentioned that you are having public forums. Where are those advertised and where are they ongoing? Because I think in listening to you all, it seems to me that the connections in the community that you're talking about are not as robust as they might be, that to really get some traction.
Excellent observation, because it's accurate. So we've multifaceted approach. I'll get to the public forums. Specific to the state plan on aging, they'll be in another year or so. We'll make sure we let you know so you can let this great group know, but that won't be the first time we ask for input. We created for the first time and hired a director of stakeholder engagement, and his job is to do this work, is to reach into communities, to start having conversations, to make relationships, and to tell people what we want to do and find people who have similar missions and are willing to join us and come together in a network. And so that work has been guided by the National Center for Advancing Person-Centered Practices and Systems. It's a national center through the Administration of Community Living. They gave us a 2-year technical assistance grant to help us create that engagement plan. We began by an asset map. And so we used consultants and also community partners to figure out where we were and where we needed to go. And then we created an engagement plan to then go to leverage the places we knew and the friends that we had to go make new friends and get into new places, at new rooms and new communities that we're not in. And so we're right in the middle of that. And he is burning up Route 1 and 95, going all over the state. But it really is snowballing already. He's only been on board for a few months, but I think just telling people we're interested in partnership, telling them what we want to do, and finding people who find at least one thread that they can connect with, they're already on board. And it's really been interesting to see how unusual partners have the same mission and want to go the same place. And so public forums, I imagine us, as we get a little further down the engagement path, we might start having listening sessions, which are more open and less directed than our state plan on aging feedback sessions, but really just an opportunity to encourage people to come and talk about what they wish they saw, what they really like and wish they saw more of. But I think we need to build a little more momentum behind us before we are able to bring people to the table in that really open way.
Any other questions? Yes.
About like placement issues for older adults. So like there's the long-term Medicaid process. the application process sometimes is like too long for patients who are going with hospice that don't have support in them, that don't qualify for an inpatient hospice. Do you have like services for those patients?
So the question was about how difficult it is to get long-term Medicaid and get taken care of, especially when you're near the end of your life and time is short and it takes so long to get that support.
I don't like the answer, but it's not a support service that we own, so to speak, but we're interested in it. And at the bigger picture level, we don't have enough higher than home level services. And I count from assisted living to skilled nursing to acute care settings, which you all know is where everything gets backlogged. And so there are a number of efforts around the state, including the memory care task force by our legislature and other rooms where people are really trying to figure out what the need is so we can look to build it. But in terms of, so I don't have a good answer other than I think it's a widely recognized problem, and I'm pleased to see the activity around it. And there's really engagement in all sectors from, you know, all sectors and all walks to say what's missing so we can build it, and let's incentivize that through Medicaid rates or otherwise. There's already a cost savings that you could prove, as you know, to be able to provide that service. So I'm sorry that we don't have it now, but it's a recognized problem and we're at the table trying to solve it.
You know, listening to both of you, it struck me how complicated this is. How, you know, a healthy 65-year-old or even a healthy 85-year-old has so different needs from a 65-year-old who's living with 3 serious chronic illnesses, or an 85-year-old who is looking at the end of their life. And so I don't know if you all have ever read that book, Being Mortal by Atal Gawande. Hopefully that has given you some guidance about how difficult it is to live well until the end in our country. And you guys are, you know, you just laid it out for us today. How complicated it is. So, but thank you for coming and talking to us. We would like to partner with you in the future. I know what you talked about, Julie, the Quality of Life Coalition actually is going hopefully to be involved in a grant from Christiana Care about educating various groups around the state in advanced care planning, which is a lot of what you talked about. There is a great need for that, especially in our long-term care community.
Yes.
And so we certainly like to partner with you on that kind of thing. But thank you both for coming again.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
Great
us.
to have you. All right, Keegan, should we take another 10-minute break? Okay, we will do that. For those of you online, take a breather.